around the room a number of booths and exhibits set up by folks around the community where you can do some activities, learn about topics related to love and self-care and sexual health and all sorts of wonderful things. So we encourage you to go and visit those booths throughout tonight. In addition, as many of you have already noticed, over here to my right we have a chocolate fountain, courtesy of the Illini Union Catering. Yes, okay, you can clap for that, thank you. And over here on my left, with some members of Design for America, DFA, we have our wall of self-love. So we encourage you to come up and put up a Post-it note about what's something that you love about yourself. If you're here, we'd like to know that you're here. So we have a couple of these registration booths, which you can see are the PVC pipe heart booths on either side of the Courtyard Cafe. Go ahead, check out those to maybe pick up a button, find out a little bit about what we do, and learn about the center in general. So if you have any questions throughout the night, go ahead, seek out the people who are wearing this lovely name tag with the yellow border. We are members of the Siebel Center for Design staff, and we'll be happy to help you with anything that you need. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first presenter to the stage, Kristen Tennant, a CU resident. Yeah, go ahead, clap. She's wonderful. A CU resident who has been a full-time freelance writer since 2002. She has 3 daughters in college and a puggle named Maeve. She will be sharing 4 love letters and 2 not love letters. So please join me in welcoming Kristen Tennant. You got it.
Is this stand?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So I do have kids in college, and I was telling one of them, yeah, that's good. Thank you. I was telling one of them earlier today that I was nervous about doing this reading with all these undergrads and looking at me, hoping that they liked what I had to say. And she's like, but you're old enough to be their mom. Why would you be nervous? And I was like, okay, I guess that's an underhanded compliment, but. So these are love letters that are true stories, and they're supposed to remind us that love isn't always about romantic love, and sometimes romantic love is a terrible idea as well. So I hope you enjoy these. The first one is to my mom, and if you haven't written a love letter to your mom, I highly recommend it. Dear Mom, guess what popped into my head last night when I was up at 3 a.m. to use the bathroom? My childhood routine of waking you up nightly so you could stand guard while I peed. The memory made me laugh out loud and then cringe. How could you stand it? Every single night, I shuffled down the hall to fetch you, even though the bathroom was right next to my bedroom. In some bizarre twist of kindergarten logic, it probably seemed okay to me because I never woke you up by jostling your shoulder or saying your name. I just stood silently by the side of the bed, staring towards your face in the dark and willing your eyes to open. And they always did. It was one of your maternal superpowers. That and the fact that you never acted exasperated with me. You always whispered, "Hi, sweetie," when you opened your eyes, and I always responded with, "I have to go to the bathroom," which of course you already knew because it was the same routine night after night. In the bathroom, I remember sitting on the cold toilet seat, gripping the edges to keep my tiny bum from dropping too far towards the water. I could still picture the way the nightlight by the sink reflected in the mirror, casting the whole scene in a warm glow. You in your nightgown, eyes partly closed, swaying slightly, as if by rocking yourself, you could hold on to the edges of sleep. Your calm aura filled the bathroom and made me calm. You clearly weren't worried about monsters hiding under beds or dangerous sea creatures living in the toilet's plumbing. You were never afraid like I was. At least, I think I was afraid. That's why I journeyed down the hall each night to get you, right? To be honest, I have a feeling that I kept up that habit long after I outgrew my fears. Maybe I just wanted your company, a nightly reminder that I wasn't alone. Love, Kristen. P.S. I'm so sorry that I interrupted your sleep every night for so many years. And I'm sorry this apology is about 40 years late. Welcome to motherhood, right? Okay. This next one might sound just like a horrible 7th grade experience, but you are allowed to laugh because it happened a long time ago, so I'm laughing now. This one is to Brent. Dear Brent, you probably never knew this, but 35 years ago, you perpetrated my first kiss in the balcony of the movie theater. Even if you don't remember that particular kiss, I'm sure you remember how our entire 7th grade class crowded into the balcony each Friday night. It was a veritable cesspool of adolescent hormones, packaged in rowdy, jostling, smelly bodies. That night, I arrived at the theater with friends. Of course, no one had the confidence to enter that scene alone. But my goal was to sit by my current crush, Troy Martin. His row was already packed, so I opted to sit as close to him as I could, which happened to be 2 rows behind him in a seat next to you. In retrospect, I do see how a 13-year-old boy might have misread my choice, but I urge you to consider the lack of follow-up clues. Did I let my leg angle out a bit until it almost touched yours? Or did I rest my hand on my leg in a way that would make it easy for you to hold? No and no. It's possible I didn't even say hi to you or you to me. I guess you thought you could skip that polite formality and rush directly to 1st and a half base, which is exactly what you did. In a single abrupt move, you lifted your arm up and around me as your face descended on mine, your tongue thrusting repeatedly in and out of my mouth. Did it occur to you that I wasn't participating in the event that was taking place in my mouth? I admit I wasn't fighting you off either, but I had a hard time following my instincts back then. Sadly, it would take another 15 years for me to learn that essential survival skill, and I don't blame you for that. I do blame you, however, for the horrendous introduction to kissing, something that I later learned can be quite enjoyable. Your friction-heavy technique left my lips buzzing for the remainder of the evening, amplifying the deep rumble of shame rising from my gut. It's true that in the months leading up to our balcony encounter, I did want to be kissed. All of my friends did, mostly so we could say it was something that had finally happened. Another check on that long list. Get first bra, get first period, get first kiss. Check, check, check. So thanks, I guess, for that check mark. And thanks for teaching me to regard boys with caution as creatures who don't often have in mind my best interests or my ownership of my body. That knowledge came in handy over the years. I hope you've learned a few things along the way, too. Kristen. Here's a best friend love letter, and she's sitting right here, so yay, Ellen. Dear Ellen, the other day I overheard someone at the cafe talking about love at first sight, and my first thought was, I don't really believe in that. But then I realized that I do. That's how we became best friends. I noticed you for the first time at the elementary school's fun fair, where we were both trying to keep track of our kids while making inane small talk with random parents. Your amazing curly hair caught my eye, but it was the determined look on your face that made me smitten. You had that spunky look of a woman who clearly doesn't put up with any nonsense. After that, I saw you everywhere, looking at basil plants at the farmer's market, leaving the library just as I was walking in, looking at me from behind your windshield at a 4-way stop. By the time we converged at my favorite cafe, walking right up to your table seemed like the most natural thing in the world to do. A long string of words tumbled enthusiastically out of my mouth, something along the lines of, hi, I think we're living parallel lives. I've seen you in at least 4 different places in the past week, so I figured we have to become friends. I'm pretty sure 9 out of 10 people, if approached in that manner, would raise their eyebrows and start gathering their things, making an excuse about how their parking meter had just run out. But you just looked at me with laughing eyes and said, I know, seriously, this town is about this big, holding up your pinky for reference. So thank you for taking a chance on a crazy stranger. I guess that's part of why we're such a great pair. We're both willing to venture out on a limb. And thank you for being exactly the kind of friend I needed at the exact moment I most needed a friend during my first years of single parenting. Your warmth makes you exactly the sort of person whose shoulder I want to put my head on during a heartache. And your cool-headedness makes you the perfect friend to have during a crisis when it feels like everything is falling apart and I might not make it to the other side in one piece. You are Band-Aids and duct tape, chamomile tea and bourbon, a comforting hug, and a swift kick in the ass, all in one package. Okay, now I'm getting all sappy and teary-eyed, which we definitely don't need. I'll just leave it at that. Love you, Kristen. Okay, here's another horrendous story about dating past. Dear guy I went on one date with my sophomore year of college. In my defense, when you asked me out the first time, I'm quite certain I was very clear about my lack of interest in anything serious. I was in the midst of my year without a boyfriend, a declaration I made after a very tumultuous breakup the summer before. But perhaps I should have supplied you with a definition of my terms. In addition to no physical contact, my somewhat arbitrary parameters included no more than 2 dates with any one guy. I was acting within those boundaries when I decided that a second date with you on a Friday and a first date with someone else on Saturday was allowable. But it seems that you disagreed. You made that crystal clear when you swung open the door of my Latin classroom and very purposefully strode across the room toward me, offering a polite "excuse me" to my astonished professor in mid-lecture. Upon reaching my desk, you leaned uncomfortably close to my face and said in a gravelly stage whisper, "You can forget about Friday night." You then excused yourself again on the way out, which strikes me as absurd now that you directed such unreasonable behavior towards me while trying to maintain a demeanor of respect for my professor. At any rate, that's all water under the bridge now. I was just thinking about the incident the other night when a group of friends were over for dinner, and we all started sharing embarrassing moment stories. My story about you sparked a wonderfully astonished reaction with plenty of "no ways" and laughter. Then someone said, "You have to hand it to him. That was very bold." And for the first time, I saw your action as something other than crazy. It was bold and crazy. I hope you are much less crazy now, but still taking each day by storm. Kristen. Okay. Just 2 more. Here's a love letter to a stranger. Dear woman who checked me in for my doctor's appointment last Thursday. You probably don't remember me. I was the woman in the olive green sweater who had a question about a physical therapy referral. But maybe you remember the woman you helped right before me. She was a tiny older woman with a cane. By her accent, I could tell she was also an immigrant, and she had a lot of questions for you. My guess is that she was feeling overwhelmed and a bit scared, like most people who are losing a grip on their well-being and trying to navigate the healthcare system. I couldn't hear what she was saying from my place in line, but I could see your face, the way you looked right at her, nodding and listening as she talked, dignifying not just her questions, but her very existence. To be honest, when I'm standing in line, I'm usually the quintessential impatient person, the one audibly sighing as I shift from one leg to another, pretending to look at my watch, wondering how someone in front of me could possibly be so clueless and have so many questions. But your patience and kindness transformed everything, flooding the waiting room and washing over me, smoothing my sharp edges. I didn't think, look at that kind, patient woman. I should be more like her. I just became more like you in that very instant. So I want to thank you for the way you treated that woman. I also want to thank you for reminding me that there are good people all around us in this crazy world, people who value small kindnesses over efficiency. Your warm presence in that room of anxious people changed me. Kind regards, the olive green sweater woman in need of physical therapy. And then And this last one is to my husband, who is also here. Dear Jason, I don't think I've told you about the time that the smell of your cooking made me cry, in a good way. It was in the middle of the night, shortly after you moved in, and I woke up disoriented, like I had no idea where I was or what phase of my life I was in. I felt calm and happy, but something just seemed out of place. Then it hit me. The entire house was filled with the scent of a pork shoulder slow roasting in the oven, fresh sage and smoky paprika mingling with pork juices. In that moment, I decided this is the smell of love. And it made me cry. Maybe for no particular reason at all, or maybe for a dozen different reasons, like how after years of being a single mom, focused on caring for my kids, now there was someone looking out for me. I could get all English major metaphoric on you and say that the smell of pork shoulder roasting all night long reminds me that good things take time and are worth waiting for, or that the process of slow roasting big, tough cuts of meat into fall-off-the-bone deliciousness is magic and chemistry rolled into one, just like love. Or maybe it's more simple than all of that. Maybe it's just that pork shoulder is so satisfying. It fills the emptiness and quells the hunger. Two things I've been trying to do, it seems, for most of my life. But here's one thing I know for sure. When I watch you cook, chopping onions with precision, grinding down whole spices with a mortar and pestle, turning veggies in a pan by tossing them up in the air, it makes me a bit weak in the knees and leaves me wondering how on earth I got so lucky as to find you. So here's to Valentine's Day, to love, to us, and to many more slow-roasted pork shoulders. Love, Kristen.
All right, excellent. So that was Kristen Tennant. Can we give it up one more time for Kristen Tennant? Fantastic. Great job exploring both platonic and romantic ways that we can express our love. At this point, we, in addition to these live performances and presentations throughout the evening, we also have a number of clips from iconic films curated by the Illini Film and Video Club that exemplify different types of love. So here is the first of these clips.
I wish I could do all the cooking. She said something I don't know. She's even figured out the laundry. She said let's just go to work. I'm thinking about some more. My heart stops every time I think about it crossing the streets of downtown. So even though she doesn't want me to, I follow her every day without her knowing. Because that's what true love is, right? There's more than just a feeling. It's an action.
All right, excellent. And our next presentation is from Miss Jessica Robinson from the College of Media. She's giving a talk on friendship and black girlhood, right? Is that all right? Excellent. Awesome. So everybody welcome Jessica Robinson. Awesome. Do you want the stand? Do you want just to walk?
Yeah, I'm just so I can project a little bit, but that's good. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. How y'all doing? How's everybody doing? awesome. Thank you, Kristen. That was awesome. I really enjoy all your letters. I need to write one to my mom. I just had a baby, and I should write her one that says, "Why didn't you tell me it was going to be like this?" So, thank you. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about organization I work with, Soul Hot. Some of you all know Soul Hot. And so here I go. So when I was 19, I began working with the Soul Hot Collective. Soul Hot organizes centrally in Illinois, so here. But as you'll hear throughout my time talking today, it kind of expands beyond geography and physical time and space. So our work is simply, but not so simple, to organize and imagine worlds where Black girls are free, and therefore Black girlhood in its complexity is a construct for organizing toward freedom. The process of doing this work involves being together in community with other folks who believe this idea of Black girlhood is freedom, and the ages of those folks range from the youngest of us being infants to the oldest of us in our 70s. We decide how we will create our work based on the gifts, talents, and ideas of those who show up. So whoever comes to Soul Hot, that's how we decide what we're going to do. I want to reiterate that when I say Black girlhood, I'm not pointing to Black girlhood as a kind of stable category. We're trying to really kind of resist this institutionalization of Black girlhood in a manual where you can just put A and B and C together and then you got a program, boom. That sucks. So we don't want to do that. So we resist the need for a proper subject, Black girl. So we prefer a politic of Black girlhood that's interested in the art, theory, and practice of Black girlhood as a worldview, a way of life, a way to do things, a way to get things done. So then this gets us to what Ruth Nicole Brown, my homegirl, asks, how are we in service of Black girls, but also not making them servitude? So when the dancer shows up in space with us, we learn something about suspension beyond discipline in school. Or when a girl wants to do a back bend, we learn something about gravity, right, other than what we already know. New definitions, different worldviews. We imagine this, of course, like I said, as the art and science politics of Black girlhood, a looking back at resistance and crafting life as already unruled and unbound. So one thing we know from our creative practice with Black girls and Soul Hot is that best friends are key in redirecting our orientation to power. So Kristen already told us about how live her best friend is. So to be clear, I'm saying friendships, the refusal of imperial knowings of power, they suggest that you for me for you is special and the goal. So that's the thing that really makes it work, right? The grant helps, the grant doesn't make it work though. In Soul Hot, we first ask if folks want to come and then say, and bring a friend. Relationships are frequently theorized in social movements as the thing that help create the power. So I'm imagining friendships to be the building place of what Fred Moten points to in conversation with a few others by saying, what if it turned out that what people were really fighting for, he's referring to social movements in the 60s, was not the right to assimilate into a culture that excluded them, but what if what they were fighting for was just to meet as much as possible without the duress? Like, what if they were just fighting to get together, have some coffee, hang out, enjoy each other without worrying about their freedom? I follow that to say, what beyond the simply we got together to do it makes collective work the thing that indeed builds the biggest fire? What I have located in that friendships, not simply the knowing of other people or being together, proves to be the thing that illuminates our work. And so I found those within my band, which is Ruth Nicole Brown, Blair Smith, Portia Garner, and myself, Jessica Robinson. We have a band called We Levitate. And I like to talk about We Levitate is the everlasting love, like Shaka Khan, and that our time is gonna always last. It's gonna be forever. In Soul Hot, we know plurality and collective. 12-year-old Black girl told us that her preferred pronouns are we and us. Those are the ones that she likes. And so we prefer we and us as a way to know that the in-between us is most important. And so I start organizing Soul Hot with my best friend. I think that's the most important thing to me, really notable. Cecily Bowen. Can we go to another slide? Yeah. So that's the band. We're super cute. One more slide. And then that's me and Cecily. So, let's see here. Me and Cecily often theorize about our friendship, or what we know now is us theorizing about our friendship, and what's been forever. I've known Cecily since middle school. And so she likes to say that we're a mix between Black China and Amber Rose, Gail and Oprah, and then Dr. Brown says that we're June Jordan and Alice Walker. And so the next slide, please. So June Jordan wrote for Alice Walker, Redwood Grove, and War. You and me talking Congo, gender grief and ash. I say, God is all so huge. You say, these sweet trees, this tree. That's me and Cecily. So writing and evoking Black girlhood through friendship is revolutionary and spiritual. You and me, us, conjuring love as a ritual of freedom. I have one more thing to say. So the band, we can go over one slide. Us, cuties. We have an article called Doing Digital Wrongly. And we talk about some organizational heartbreak we had from structural shifts, things that are just too hard sometimes to talk about. And so we turned to making music and listening to music to kind of move us to somewhere else when our work started to look really unjust and not right for a future for Black girls. So in 2014, the homegirls who were still in Champaign, who you see here, formed We Levitate. And so we let ourselves be rearranged to get where we should be. I'm gonna play a little bit of our music on that slide there. And so our music started out as love. Hey. This is one of them. It's called.
Here we go. It's another one. This is for the queen and the gold. This is for them loving me so. This is for the queen and the gold. Our time is gonna last forever. I met them when I was young and 19. They told me how to love and how
That's
to
not me singing, that's Portia.
The greatest love I have ever known. I owe it all to these women I know. This is for the queen and the gold. This is
All that to say.
for
Love
the
is a skill.
loving me so.
Love is important.
This is
Thank you.
Once again for Jessica Robinson. Talking about Soul Hot and her band, We Levitate. So again, we have, now up next is another clip from the Illini Film and Video Club. This one from the movie Titanic.
Stop her! Rose! What are you doing? Stop her! No! Rose! You're so stupid! Why'd you do that, huh? You're so stupid, Rose! Why did you do that? Why?
You jump high, jump right.
All right.
Oh, God. I couldn't go.
All right, excellent. And up next, we have Mikus, a postdoc researcher in the Hauber Lab, sharing Love, It's for the Birds. And actually, Jake, could we keep the lights down for this one? That would be great. Keep them how they were for that for the film. Yes, excellent. Thank you. All right. So give it up for Mikus. you want to hold it or hold it up?
Thanks, guys. So I'm going to tell you a story about a pretty ordinary bird that has some pretty extraordinary things to tell us. Okay? So meet the dark-eyed junco. It's a sparrow, and it's gray. Okay? So it can't really get any more forgettable than that. In fact, I bet you that on your way to school or union today, you pass around 5 of them because they're hiding in the bushes because they're here in the winter. Okay, who of you in the audience have seen one of them today or before? Okay. A couple. Okay, right. So I'm going to show you a video that's going to demonstrate that this ordinary bird does some pretty extraordinary things. So here we have a junco male. He's puffed himself up to the size of a tennis ball. He's hopping around, trying to impress a female that's in the center of the screen. He's picking up grass, putting it in his mouth, pretending that he's going to build a nest for this female. He's really excited. The female is really excited. Stuff is about to happen. And this goes on for, like a half an hour. I'm not going to show you the whole clip, okay? And so there's 3 things I want you to know about this video. So the first thing you notice, this guy is picking up all this grass material on his bill. He's hopping around. He's saying, I'm going to build the most beautiful nest for you. And in fact, they never do, okay? Nests are built by females. Junco males never build nests. This is kind of like your partner home picking up a broom, like walking through the house with a broom, pretending that they're about to sweep the house, but they never do, okay? So the junco male is basically doing what many of us are doing on our first dates. He's lying, okay? Second thing about this video, that guy has got swag, okay? He might be gray and small and pretty boring, but he has these white feathers on the tail that the females just love. Okay, and they love these white feathers because as junco males get older, they get more white in their tails. As they have more testosterone, they get more white in their tails. Okay, and as they're courting the female, they're spreading their tails, portraying all the white they have. And so basically, this guy is doing what, again, many of us do on our first dates. He's really trying to be really attractive to the female. Okay, so the third thing I want you to know about the video is that this guy already has a mate somewhere else, okay? He's trying to get some action on the side here. And the interesting thing is that in many, many birds, around 30% of all the children offspring are born through these extra pair copulations, okay? 30% of his children are not going to be with the mate that he's living with. Okay? And this might just seem like a trivial fact to you, but it's really exciting to us as scientists because this means that we can use this guy as a model system to study how cheating evolves. Okay, imagine trying to answer that question with humans, like you're walking around, how often do you cheat with your partner? You can't ask those kind of things. Okay, you can't do this in humans, but in birds we can use things like DNA collection. We can analyze the DNA, and we can find out how many children of this guy were not with his original mate. Okay, so we can study the evolution of cheating, and yes, it is an evolved behavior. It doesn't just feel good. It's there for a reason. Okay, so I hope I've convinced you in this short talk that these seemingly ordinary gray birds that hide in bushes have a lot of really important things to tell us. And if you want to find out more about these things, we have a whole movie called Ordinary Extraordinary Junco. You can also shoot me an email. I also have a TED Talk that kind of talks about these kind of things. And with that, I'd like to thank you and wish you a happy Valentine's Day.
All right, thanks again to Mikus. Awesome. Fantastic. Next, we got another clip for the Illini Film and Video Club. This one from Lady and the Tramp.
Here you are, the best spaghetti in a town.
This is the night
It's a beautiful night, and we call it Bella Notte. Look at the skies, they have stars in their eyes on this lovely Bella Notte. Side by side with your loved one, you'll find an enchantment here. The night will weave its magic spell when the one you love is near. For this is the night when the heavens are right on this lovely Bella Notte.
Excellent. All right, once again, a clip from Lady and the Tramp. At this point, we'd like to welcome up a few members from Floor, which is a student organization. Okay, yeah, absolutely. But it's a student poetry organization here on campus. So first, we'll be presenting Ben, who's also informed me he's the CEO of a startup called MapTitan.com that he'd like to plug. All right, so here's Ben.
All right, I got 3 poems for you. First one goes like this. Why are you so distant, she asks. I reply, listen, quit insisting this thing's so twisted. You're resistant, but 6 is simply a digit. Do I gotta be explicit? I've been wishing since the instant I witnessed your visage. Still, I'll admit it, I'd be fibbing if I said I didn't fidget. That night, post-drinking, my eyelids weren't blinking, vision fixed on what dim light my little night lights emitting. 90 minutes wide awake thinking, weighing the situation, laying there sinking, trying to find an excuse to use to prove the youth your youth is approved. It's not a useless pursuit, it's, or is it? Shit, my mind's right side's all in, but the other's calling bis. Like, compose a list. It's not finished, we're not over this. I'm beginning to lose sleep, shifting in these huge sheets. It behooves me to do it shrewdly. Choose a pen and some loose leaf. Cue the juicy truth strewn profusely between the blue streets of a news sheet. Whizzing through pages, contemplating with phrases the issues this raises. Finally, I place the big stick on the table and stabilize. Begin pacing, squinting to envision your face in those hazel eyes. I'm regrouping, excuse me. It isn't exquisite, but I'm finished. Phew, geez. I reduced it to a few themes. My first concern is you being hurt. Would it work? Her tenderfoot and me, well, mature? I'm versed in the earth's mysteriousness, and you, immersed in your current experiences. Second, I reckon on how to mention the perception. We gotta subject them to the direction we're set in, but I bet they're destined to contest it. Next, expectation, apprehension, dissecting every perspective. They present objections to affection for a freshman. Third, perched on the stage, submersed in your gaze, before I pull the curtains of this circus, I'll say, under the surface, I'm nervous to perform this. I wonder if to determine whose muse fuels this furnace, or the purpose of that person, because the worst is, I used you just for the verses. All right. Number 2. Oh, goody, goody, it's that hoodie, the one I sported when I purported I wasn't a rookie. Looking around, I found it in a mound on the ground in my closet. I thought I lost it. I crouched down and lifted it, give it a whiff, and it's still doused in the smell from the spell of your blouse. Not the sight, sound, or touch all that much, but the scent sends me back 100% to the cement I stood on when you sent me that text. And the last one. Close your eyes, let's take it for a test drive. Can you picture it now, you being my wife? No kids, no debt, and no downside. There's the diner, we can split some large fries and a chocolate shake like it's our first date. I was so nervous that fate made my stomach ache. We discussed our dreams and the world in its current state. I can't believe that you got me staying up this late. If I can walk you home, you know that'd be gravy. We can stop along the way so I can pick you daisies. I can't provide you with a big house or new Mercedes, so forgive me, girl, but you're my favorite lady. And I'm smiling now because I'm a happy dude. I'd lasso the moon if you only asked me to. Or we can travel, go to every latitude. It don't matter as long as I'm with you. We walk around just so we can hold hands. Remember in the gym when we shared our first slow dance? I picked you up at your old house in my new Vans with roses because you deserve a little romance. On the playground, we can meet at recess before we cared about money, fame, or genius. November 1st, I saved you a Reese's. I got peanut butter cup in your favorite, Pieces. Open your eyes, now you see what I see. All the years that you've shared beside me. I'm a lucky man, thanking God Almighty, looking forward to the day that we turn 90. Thanks.
All right, give it up for Ben one more time. And next, also from Floor Poetry, we have Edgar, who's also one of the co-founders of Floor Fest, which is a music festival coming to town later this year. So, Edgar, come on up. Oh, we don't have enough time? Oh yeah, so we're gonna do this out of order. Okay, all right. Actually, so never mind. Edgar, we're gonna save Edgar for later. In the meantime, we have a presentation from Olga Maslova, who's the co-chair of the costume design program and assistant professor in costume design at the Department of Theater. She will be sharing love for freedom in post-Soviet Russia. Everybody give it up for Olga. Sorry I couldn't find you beforehand, but I'm excited for you.
Oh, I was sitting right there. Hey, hi everybody. Ben, where were you when I was like 19? No, he doesn't hear me. You see, that's where he was. I was 19 and he was nowhere to be found and I was lonely. Anyway, yes, you see, he still doesn't pay attention. But never mind, because I can actually start by telling you the story of how I met my husband on a nudist hippie beach and how he proposed in 2 weeks, and we've been married ever since. But I'm not gonna tell you because he's professor here. So nobody wants to picture their professor on a nudist hippie beach with a hair longer than mine, right? So I'm gonna tell you about my actual first love. And this is the kind of love that probably few of you will be exposed and few of you will be lucky to feel. And I'm gonna tell you about my life in Russia and love that came very accidentally, conjoined with the death of Brezhnev. So I grew up in USSR. Maybe a few of you heard of that part of Russia. Yes, and it was kind of pretty, and it was kind of like growing up in China during Cultural Revolution, but I didn't know any other way because I was happy. I had my childhood. I thought that's the way it's supposed to be, and people were talking in the newspapers and on TV, which we had only whole 3 programs that would end up at 11 p.m. and start at 8 a.m. Yeah, so, and that would be the paintings that we would be looking. And then we would have a reality. Yep, don't go yet further. I would stand on the same line for 8 hours to just get the flour and meat, like one kind of meat, just frozen. But that was okay. I grew up like that. And that would be also, yeah, this time is for vodka. And then we would have apartments like this. That would be communal apartments. I was lucky. I was a daughter of engineers, so we grew up in a little bit decenter apartment. And then that would be my uniform, my school uniform. We would all wear uniform. Don't go yet. Yeah, and then what happened is the Brezhnev died, and something happened, something shifted, because when he died, nobody knew what to do. And then all of a sudden, this weird air of change started happening. And the people, it's like aliens, they started appearing on the streets. And then we would have this first movie and a rock group, which was not even called a rock group, and nobody wore jeans because nobody could get the jeans. Like getting the jeans means that you are from Western, you have a father who is a diplomat, and that would be shockingly, unbelievably beautiful. And then we had this movie coming out while Brezhnev was dead and nobody else had claimed the power. And there was this person who was half Korean, half Russian, so he was like even more alien, singing about the changes, and that became a motive for the next several years. And you can play the clip. Oh. It even had the subtitles.
Вместо тепла зелень стекла, вместо огня дым. Из сетки календаря выхвачен день. Красное солнце сгорает дотла, день догорает с ним. На пылающий город падает тень. Перемен требуют наши сердца. Перемен требуют наши глаза. В нашем смехе и в наших слезах и в пульсации перемен. Мы ждем перемен.
That's it. Oh my God, thank you. So, and then the changes hit you like there were no tomorrow. Everything was up for grabs. We became hippie. Whatever, like, you probably don't even know who hippie are. But in the end of the 80s and 90s, that's who we are. We were hippies. We were going for freedom. I was walking barefoot on the streets of Moscow. And then I was reprimanded, of course, by my teacher that I should not be walking barefoot on the streets of Moscow because there's microbes and stuff. But I didn't care. And we grew long hair, and we wore weird stuff, and we created our own clothes. You can go on. And then you find your people who speak your language, people who don't care about people who don't speak your language, because you have the community. And in this community, you can be weird, you can be bizarre. And my bizarreness that was strange and unacceptable before, all of a sudden become a norm, and you can relate. And then you create things, like the one on the left, especially the fashionable one. You get one from the insane asylum? How's like? Yep, psychiatric clinic. I'm sorry, it has a better word of it. So the best thing, the badge of honor, is to get one from the psychiatric clinic and dye and decorate, and then you make pens, which are big, and then you have a diagram of doing that. Go ahead. So this is the diagram how to make pens. And then you cut, there's like very specific, like you cut the back pockets from your jeans, and then you create those, the little bag that's called ksiva. And you either wear it here with your passport or on the side. And a lot of things, like you have shoes. And shoes, we don't have the word for shoes, but in Russia, shoes would be the English word for shoes, and lots of things. So, and then with this uniform, you belong. But not just with the uniform, with new way of thinking, with new songs. And the rock clubs. We started going for the rock clubs. We created the rock clubs, and people were singing in the rock clubs, and people were singing very weird and strange songs, a combination of words that was never would be allowed, that you would go immediately to the psychiatric clinic to get your short there, if that would be only 5 years before. And then we created our god, Boris Grubenshikov. He's there, and he's there, and he's right there, and walking in the streets of St. Petersburg, and you truly would go to Moscow and sit in St. Petersburg just to get the taste of people who taste freedom, and that taste of freedom, something you can never take away, because nothing, and that is me in a rock club. And that taste of freedom is my first and only love. No, not first and only love. Of course, I love my husband of 30 years, who I met on a naked nudist beach, and I love my 2 children, who are on a quest for authenticity, and I love my kids and a hedgehog, but most of all, the taste of independence, freedom, and your own voice. That's something that you can never take away. And the next clip is from the newly released movie about the times, and ironically, the director of that movie was taken from the set by Putin and his power 2 years ago, and he's still in jail in a house arrest, under the house arrest, without any prosecution or any judicial process, because somebody's still fighting for freedom in Russia. This was my life.
Я на запотевшем стекле трамвая пальцем рисую плохие слова. Кругом водосточные трубы играют, и мокра от дождя, как на клумбе трава голова. И город вдруг сразу стал серым и мокрым. Я шагаю, не прячась под сенью зонтов, и блестят от дождя, словно зеркальце стекла. Я готов зайти в гости в любой из ближайших домов. Мое настроение зависит от количества шел первый дождь, и на улице плюс, и весна так близко.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Professor Maslova. Awesome. All right, just Olga. All right, so thank you very much, Olga. Up next, we have the Illini Swing Society performing a dance to Ella Fitzgerald's It's Almost Like Being in Love. Are you guys ready? All right, awesome. They're on their way up.
What a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love. There's a smile on my face for the whole human race. Why, it's almost like being in love. All the music of life seems to be like a bell that is ringing for me. And from the way that I feel when the bell starts to peal, I would swear I was falling, I could swear I was falling. It's almost like being in love. Almost like being in love. Just like being in love. All the music of life seems to be just like a bell that is ringing for me. And from the way that I feel when the bell starts to peal, I would swear I was falling, I could swear I was falling. It's almost like being in love.
The demon queen of
This is our president.
Okay, all right. Oh, and excellent performance by the Illini Swing Society. Now joining us is their president, Melissa. Clarissa.
All right, hi everybody. We're the Illini Swing Society. I was not prepared for this, but I have some flyers if you're interested in learning about swing dancing. We're a club on campus that's welcome to all students, faculty, community members, staff, your friends, your enemies. Please don't bring your pets. The union doesn't allow that. Otherwise, everybody's welcome. We're having our lesson series. We're starting another one this Thursday, which is what this flyer talks about. You can find more information about us at the Illini Swing Society on Facebook. We have an Instagram, Twitter, or our website, IlliniSwing.org. If you have any questions, come speak with me. Okay, cool.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Clarissa. So everybody come out and start dancing with Illini Swing Society. I know I will be. And they've just informed me they'll also be around. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and talk to them and ask them any questions you have. Next up, we have a student, Tiffany Duong, a freshman in material science and engineering. She's who would like to encourage others through this presentation to value their relationships and work actively to enhance them. Tiffany. Oh, here she is. Awesome. Everybody welcome Tiffany to the stage.
Hello. Okay, so I'd like to begin the presentation. How many of you guys have heard of what the 5 love languages are? Showcase of hands? Yeah, I know there's a booth out there where you guys can learn more about them. Well, I'm also giving a presentation on them too. So we have some people familiar with them. However, I'd like to clarify, and then that, oh, wait, can you back? Sorry. I'd like to clarify that we're going to go more by the second definition of languages, one where this community that we're going to be looking at is humanity itself, where they're not a language that is specifically spoken or written, but more depicted through acts. And through that way, we can articulate what we mean by them. So, the 5 love languages were outlined by Gary Chapman in a 1995 book called The 5 Love Languages, et cetera. So in the book, he outlines 5 love languages, the first one being receiving gifts, and so on. We have words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and physical touch. So what we can gather from these is that people want love expressed to them in different ways. Some people respond best to physical touch. Some people would just really love if you wash the dishes for them. Some people want to hear that they are loved. And because of that, we should look into our relationships with this in mind. And from there, we can grow and better articulate what we want from other people. So why are they important? So essentially, they are just another abstraction or survey you can take to learn more about yourself, like just another Myers-Briggs. But once you know what the people around you want from you and what you want from others, you can tell others what you want. Like, just tell them how you'd want to be told that you're loved, or that you'd really like it if they gave you a present now and then. I know for me personally, my mom isn't someone to go out and just flat out tell me, I love you. But I know from the things that she does, from all the trips that she goes around the world, that whenever she goes somewhere, she picks up something just for me or for my sister, and she has us in mind so that when she comes back, she can give it to us and share a part of her life with us. Because essentially, the 5 love languages quiz or abstraction, they're just that. But at the end of it, we use them and we think about what they mean for us and others. And from there, we can depict that love is universal. And at the end of the day, people just want to be understood. That's something that my 7th grade English teacher told me, and I keep this to this day, even though she has passed from us. And with that in mind, why we turn to each other and learn from each other, use empathy to learn and grow, and to read and write, and just depict our emotions to others. Because essentially, communication is key at the end of it all. We just want to hear what we want from others and have them tell those same words back to us. And I hope that at the end of this all, you guys can look forward and just take a moment back, listen to what others want, and keep that in mind and be loved and love fully. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Tiffany is a freshman. That was a fantastic presentation. Tiffany mentioned the 5 love languages trifold, which is right here in the back. For those of you who are joining us, we have a number of these booths and exhibits where you can learn all about topics related to love and participate in some cool activities while you're here. And next up, we have another clip from the Illini Film and Video Club, this one from High School Musical.
Living in my own world, didn't understand that anything can happen when you take a chance.
I never believed in what I couldn't see. I never opened my heart to all the possibilities. Ooh, I know that something has changed. Never felt this way. And
All right, excellent. Thanks for that clip from the Illini Film and Video Club. Next, we have another poetry presentation from Donnie from Floor Poetry, who's also one of the co-founders of, well, what I mentioned before, that Floor Fest, a music festival coming to the community later this year. So everybody give it up for Donnie.
Honestly, I love High School Musical so much that I kind of just want to finish singing that. But I won't do that. No, you do not want me to sing, trust me. But now my things are not loading. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to be reading 2 poems. The first one is The Plunge. I'm going to switch hands, though. The boat nods along with the waves, rocks you back. Your tiptoes hanging over the edge graze the froth, and it takes your careful breath away. You accept that after all, this may be what you truly want, to give yourself into this bliss, to be submerged and born anew, a baptism and a resurrection, with nothing but moral obligation holding you back. But will that ever be enough? What is want after all, if not the way the waves call to the cliffs, the push and pull and grind against rock, erosion and undoing, until its face gives way, crumbles and slips through your fingers? What is want if not the way gravity beckons to sand in an hourglass, finds a way to tease time between glass thighs, so mesmerized, breathless, begging, wanting nothing more than to be joined with the others, those who are not afraid to take the plunge? Oh, sweet siren, she a careless catalyst, you a stagnant fool. Listen closely. Do you hear that? The stuttering of your jaded heart, a melancholy melody. She is singing, lyrical. These new words no longer unknown. Her voice, battling the full moon, waxes and wanes, drowns out the voices of the lovers left behind on dry land. Come to me, she sings to you. Come home, please. And it's the final push you need. You shed the burdens and the weight, all the unrepentant sins, lessons and parables, your skin and bones, all of these now useless things. So this next one is called Lifetime, which that's a working title, just so y'all know, because it's kind of bad. All right. There are moments in a lifetime that seem to stretch longer than we deserve. They linger in between the inhale and exhale of our spent breaths, and the taste that swirls around our tongues. I can still feel the gentle caress of your fingertips, a whisper of potential, a promise of a reality I have not yet witnessed. Maybe it's the way the laughter rolls beneath your words, waves them into a vivid existence, a sight as breathtaking as the first time you held my waist and arched my back against your want. Maybe it's the sincerity of your being, the honesty whispered into the dark of night, words reverent and still and brave and so ready for a war you do not wish to fight. But you do desire a violent peace, one I now find myself aching for. But I know our days are numbered, not predestined, but filled with a solemn nostalgia I have not yet had the courage to claim. Its nameless form takes shape with each impatient moment we surrender to ourselves. And I'm unafraid to stand before you, that even after all of that, I am terrified of all that you've awakened within me. Thank you. Where is our MC?
Everybody, that was Donnie. Great job. That was excellent from Floor Poetry. So next up, we have another clip from Illini Film and Video, right? No. This is Felipe? Okay, right. Next, we have a presentation from Felipe Minanto, a research scientist at the NCSA and a research professor of astronomy at the U of I. He works on observational cosmology and building the next generation of surveys for astronomy. He'll be sharing a love story entitled Quantum Tunneling. Everybody give it up for Felipe. Yes, absolutely. Here, you want me to get you set up in the middle?
Thank you. And about a bit more. Is that the right height? A bit lower. Perfect. All right, so actually I never thought that this was a love story until I was told that it was a love story by people who read it, and I guess it is, right? It's part of how you see things. To me, it was just a story. It's 99% true, and it's part, I guess, of a way of trying to find a creative outlet when you also work as a scientist. So anyway, it's called quantum tunneling. By the second year, only 3 of us have survived the carnage of advanced algebra and calculus. Originally, we were 13 aspiring physicists. One died during the first month. His body appeared on a vacant lot in a part of the city that I was too sheltered to know. I'm embarrassed to have forgotten his name too. The rest wither at the hands of a few math professors who dispense their academic resentment on each new crop of students. Around this time, I start connecting daily life with my newfound language of physics. I could now see the world labeled with vectors and potentials. And so, soon I realized, for example, that my childhood country sat on a pretty deep potential well. In other words, it was a backwards province surrounded by tall walls erected to keep us tied up and muscled inside. The only way out, I thought at the time, was to jump them, gather enough energy, usually in the form of mad fury and rage, to cross the potential and get to the other side. Breaking through was unimaginable. The landing was not free from harm. I still have the scars from mine. My own escape during high school was fueled by a broken heart and the realization that life was absurd and ephemeral. For women, unsurprisingly, the walls were unfairly high and the energy needed to cross excessive. The few women I know that have crossed it were much older than me or were already broken by the fall. She was wearing those very 1990 acid wash jeans. I remember the afternoon that I met her more than 25 years ago on the first day of school. She left a permanent memory on me. I did not on her. She had confidence and kindness galore, so scarce on the girls that I was meeting back then. And she had long, shiny, fine hair. But her innocence soon betrayed her, and I discovered how comfortable she was inside the walls, within the boundaries of our tribe. Regardless, I tried not to stray too far from her. That worked for a while. After a brief affair with physics, by the start of my 3rd years, I was back in love with astronomy. But she was not around anymore. She had dropped from my program and started art school across the city. I was also alone in class, thanks to an unhinged math professor who broke the dreams of everyone else. So for my stellar astrophysics class, it was just me and the cool new young astronomy professor, who later became a mentor. On the second class, he let me in on the secret. Our sun and all of the yet undiscovered life in planets orbiting other sun-like stars are all powered by a legal quantum loophole. The sun's energy comes from slamming together hydrogen nuclei so hard that they stick together to produce new helium atoms. The problem is that the sun core is not hot enough. The atoms don't fly fast enough to overcome the repulsion of their positive charges so they can stick together. They don't have enough energy to cross each other's potential wells, not enough energy to jump their walls. But the sun shines anyway, makes everything green, alive, meaningful, at least sometimes. Like Schrödinger's cat, in the quantum world, things are not just black and white, dead or alive. So the world is porous, penetrable. The nuclei have a chance, although inconceivably small, to go through the tunnel instead. And the sun core is so densely packed with hydrogen atoms that even that small possibility, it shines. And the miracle happens, quantum tunneling. At the scale of our world, however, we don't stand a chance. We will need more time than all of the human lives combined for tunneling to happen to us, or so I thought. She followed a new road, schools and friends, and I was distracted with galaxies and whether the universe will expand forever or crunch back. She was not part of my daily landscape anymore. Until the day I turned 20 and she showed up at my door with a book and a letter that I still have with me. Her hair was cut short, and her innocence was gone. She was now fierce and boundless, but she had no scars. She had built a tunnel, and she had crossed her walls. And now she shined like the sun. Thank you.
Wow, that was beautiful. Give it up again once more time for Felipe. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, for those of us who are just joining the Courtyard Cafe scene just now, this is Loveapalooza. It's an annual Valentine's Day event hosted by the Siebel Center for Design. So you'll notice all the exhibits that are around. Feel free to walk around and participate in some of their activities. In addition, if you're here, we'd love to know that you're here. So we have a couple of booths over here on the sides marked with the hearts. Go ahead, stop by there. You can hop on our newsletter, learn a little bit about what the center is and what we do, and find out ways you can get involved. All right, excellent. So this next presentation is another clip from the Illini Film and Video Club. This one from the movie Moonlight.
Hey, you trying to get smart with me, huh?
Excellent. That was from Moonlight. That's excellent film. If you haven't seen it, do really recommend it. It's a great movie, super important. But next, we have another presentation from Rose Kosmarowski, a teaching assistant professor in costume design and technology in the Department of Theater, sharing a story about her heart tattoo. Everybody welcome Rose to the stage. Do you want the stand, or do you want to?
Yes.
You got it. Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
As much handling as you
All right. Hello. So when this opportunity came up, the first thing I thought about talking about was this chest tattoo that I got. So in 2010. So the reason I want to talk about this is because I got this tattoo at a time when I was really trying to understand love and question love in my life. Basically, there was a lot going on for me. I was in the middle of a divorce in 2010. I had been with the same person for 14 years, and I thought I understood that if I made certain choices in my life, like meet somebody, get married, buy a house, provide for each other, enjoy adventures together, that I would have happiness forever, and it didn't turn out that way. And a catalyzing moment happened, and I was like, whoa, what is love? What is this? I'm very cynical right now. I don't understand what's happening. And it really caused me to question what I needed out of a relationship and what a relationship can be, where we put our own needs first or someone else's needs. And at the same time in 2010, I did not rehearse with such bright lights at my house. I'm just saying, I'm having a response right now. It's cool. I'm just letting you know. All right. Oh, okay, cool. So the other thing that was happening in 2010 was my father was having heart issues. So in that relationship, my partner and I really intellectualized our emotions a lot. And so when all of this fell apart, I was like, whoa, emotions, they're out here. I don't know where they are. What's love? That makes no sense. And my dad is having heart issues because in 1995, he actually had open heart surgery where he had 8 bypasses done. And the doctor at the time said, we just gave you 10 to 15 years. Yes. And so I think he saw that more of an expiration date. You know, he's an engineer, civil engineer, and he thought, oh my gosh, in 15 years, what's going to happen to me? And this was 15 years later. So he was having a lot of stress, you know, kind of facing that possibility of the end. So he was having atrial fibrillation issues. And in the process of visiting my parents and attending some medical appointments with them, I really had to face my own parents' mortality, which was another thing that was big. You know, here I am in the process of a divorce. My dad's having heart issues, and I realize I have enough peace of mind to realize, oh, the emotion of love and the heart. Okay, so it's not up here, it's in here. I'm still making sure I can place that, you know, in my daily life, even today. So as I was experiencing all this, I was like, I think I maybe want to get a heart tattoo. I don't know, I have some tattoos, you know, already. Maybe I'll mark my history with a tattoo. And so I'm sitting around on Friday night with some friends of mine. We're at the Esquire having a happy hour beer. And my friend is like, hey, I'm ready to get that tattoo on my foot. You ready to get your heart tattoo? Or is that too much? Or do you need a deadline? And I was like, yeah, I'm a theater person. I need a deadline. I work to the deadline. If I don't have a deadline, I don't get much else done. So I was like, sure, let's go make that appointment for those tattoos. Yeah, I'm going to get a heart tattoo. I'm just going to add it to the back. You know, I have like a couple on my back already. I came of age in the 90s. You know, that's what we're doing. And so we go and make the appointment, and in talking to the guys there, I was like, you know, right, it's going to be the size of my fist because the heart is the size of a fist. I'm like, can I just stick it back here somewhere? You know? And they looked, and they were like, you know, they're artists themselves. They don't want to just slap another, you know, decoupage thing on my back, another tattoo randomly located. So I'm like, you know, I mean, I know it's a chest, it's a heart tattoo. It goes here. I know it. Yes. Okay. But I was a little bit like, that's a lot of commitment. You know, that's a marker. It's physical. I see it. Other people see it. On the back, you know, that's like give and take. Depends on the shirt you're wearing. So there I was, made the appointment for the next day. And I had some friends over on Saturday morning at my house. We're having a crafty brunch. And I'm like, whoa, at 2 o'clock, I'm getting a chest tattoo. I think I better have a rehearsal. So I grabbed a lip liner, drew it on my chest, and I was like, okay. And these other friends, they didn't know I had made the appointment. So they were like, what's happening there, Rose? What's going on? And I'm like, yeah, it's going to become real. I better make sure. You know, so I was checking out every time I walked past the mirror, I was like, oh, there it is. Okay, it's going to be there. Going to do that. All right. So obviously I committed to it. Interesting commitment, you know, considering everything else that was going on at the time. And the process of getting it was actually really interesting because as he was doing it, I thought to myself, ooh, I don't want to twitch. I don't want this to get messed up. So what I'll do is while he's putting ink in his machine, I will breathe in, and then when he's working, I will breathe out. So it became this ritual meditation experience that I didn't see coming, but it was a way for me to cope with the physical pain of that. And it was really great. And people say, did it hurt? I mean, it's a tattoo. Yeah, it hurt. But what I like to say about tattoos is they're a hurt you choose. It's the hurt that we don't see coming that hurts worse than the hurt we choose. So since then, I kind of figured I have this once in a while, honestly. What happened to me during that process was, in emerging from that relationship, I became more, I mean, I'm doing this right now, which I gotta say, you know, 20 years ago, I would have been like, what? You know, here she is on stage. But I became more willing to engage in the world in ways that I had been afraid to before. And I saw somebody after I got this a year later, and I was like, you might not remember me, because I'm totally okay with that awkwardness. Like, we're all awkward. And they were like, how could I forget you? You have that chest tattoo. And I was like, oh, I mean, it wasn't the conversation. You know, it was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize I was doing that at the same time, that I was making a physical marker on myself for something that also was happening internal to my behavior beyond that. So that's been exciting. And another byproduct of just kind of living life and getting to know people and be in the world and in relationships is this last year, I got these two words tattooed on my arms, and it's Amor Fati. So it's love fate or love what is. And in the process of the last 9 years, not even, it's only 2019, it's February, so 8 years. But I've come to realize that the idea of relationships where we create a story about what we want it to be is not necessarily the best way to be. We have to accept each other for who we are. So I put them on my arm so I can read them and be reminded, like, love what is. Love what is. The stories inside, try to break away from them and clarify with the world outside. And the other thing that I love about this new tattoo from last year is that I can hug people and hopefully we can accept each other for who we are as well.
Wow, that was really wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Rose. At this time, we have one last clip from the Illini Film and Video Club. It's a Bollywood film, and I've been trying to get this title right. It's Ankan Main Teri, which roughly translates to "In Your Eyes."
Of the evening, the dreamy girl herself, Shanti Priya.
आई ऐसी रात है जो बहुत खुश नसीब है, चाहे जिसे दूर से दुनिया वो मेरे करीब है। कितना कुछ कहना है फिर भी है दिल में सवाल कहीं, सपनों में जो रोज कहा है वो फिर से कहूँ या नहीं। आंखों में तेरी अजब सी अदाएं हैं, हो आंखों में तेरी अजब सी अदाएं हैं। दिल को बना दे जो पतंग सांसें ये तेरी वो हवाएं हैं। तेरे साथ साथ ऐसा कोई नूर आया है, चांद तेरी रोशनी का हल्का सा एक साया है। तेरी नजरों ने दिल का किया जो हशर असर ये हुआ, अब इनमें ही डूब के हो जा।
All right, awesome. So now we have one more member from Floor Poetry. I'm going to read a couple poems for us, or a few poems for us. That's Edgar, who's also one of the other co-founder for that aforementioned Floor Fest, which is that music festival coming to town later this year. So everybody give it up for Edgar. Additionally, I'd like to bring attention, as all of these booths are going on here, there's a couple of the poetry clubs are right down here in the corner. They're doing poetry on the spot, doing all sorts of things with poetry. So if you're interested at all, come down and go and talk to them. Awesome. So Edgar, do you want to stand with the mic?
I'll just stand with the mic.
Okay. Do you want us to move it to the center?
Yeah.
Everybody give it up for Edgar.
All right. This one's untitled. I just wrote it like an hour ago because that's just me, procrastinating things till last minute. Anyways, love blooms at the intersection of dreams and desire, where clouded skies yield to fruity sunsets. The sea can't harness the depths of passion fruit. So persuasive, you can taste it. You make me laugh. You are something else sometimes. Always making me laugh uncontrollably at your antics and inappropriate chimes about the job you always want to quit, or certain friends who you always say are unfit, and ignoring the past mistakes you'll never come to admit. When you came through, everything I thought I knew was interrupted like Trojan air by arrows, a reinvention of love and affection, reactions and contractions, eyeball satisfaction. It soon fell to the wayside as I became stupefied. Sure, you denied accepting that I was ready to date twice. And sure, I had to promise patience, even though I didn't care even though I didn't take much time till we became each other's pastime. You're striking, lightning, cutting off the dark with a luminous allure. You're my poetic metaphor, a symphonic melody composed of rhythmic waves that crash ashore. My own 2000s mixtape. Falling Alicia Keys, Crazy in Love Beyonce, Such Great Heights Postal Service, Yellow Coldplay. Just remember I love you just as much as I like you, and every day I like something I didn't know about you the previous day. I even like you more than you like to sleep or you like to take over my side of the bed. But despite back problems, I love sharing beds with you every day, every night, into every morning for the rest of my collegiate days. Love blooms at the intersection of dreams and desire, where clouded skies yield to passionate sunsets and spread like an uncontrollable fire. You've taken over my soul with every gaze, falling to a deeper state of days with your ways. Thankful I'm lucky, constantly amazed at how our love bloomed. All right, the next one's called Right Street. I keep thinking of you and me. I'm living the sweetest dream. Remember walking down Right Street, thinking you'd come to break me, but you said you also liked me. You remember you were the missing puzzle piece that came around to complete me, showing me all I could grow to be. Love to fall asleep to the sound of your heartbeat. That smile in the morning, brighter than sunlight. You're the match to my candle, lightening my inspiration. My heart may be fragile, but you love it with all your affection. You're an ocean inside my head, waves I still can't fully express, but this love for you won't rest, knowing what I feel has no limit. When I think of you every minute, I can feel the passion in your spirit, seeing the drive you always exhibit. You've grown to always inspire me since it all came to start on Right Street.
Excellent. One more time for Edgar. Once again, everybody, this is hosted by the Siebel Center for Design. We're a new building coming to campus, but before the building is built, we're running these initiatives to integrate elements of human-centered design and foster multidisciplinary collaborations, just like the ones that you're seeing today. So if you want to find out more about what we do, please stick around. Anybody with a yellow border on their name tag is from the center. We'll be happy to talk to you about how you can get involved in what we do. And now, it's time for our final presenter of the evening, Dr. Justin Rhodes, who's an associate professor from the Department of Psychology, the Neuroscience Program, an Institute for Genomic Biology, and a full-time faculty member in the Beckman Institute Neurotech Group. He's also the principal investigator for the Rhodes Lab. He will be talking to us tonight about the topic of clownfish sex. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Rhodes to the stage.
All right,
great. You got it.
Thank you very much. So we got a couple of days here till Valentine's Day, and so I wanted to get everybody in the mood. So we're going to watch a little Whoopi here, so you can play the tape. These are one of my favorite organisms of all time. I don't know these guys. These are Nemo. Okay.
Trying to hold back
the big one. You're going to see it
for so long.
These are their eggs.
And if you like I feel, baby, then come on.
Female here has a little
oh,
coming out and she's squirting a little. Let's get it on. Male comes over to fertilize that.
Let's get it on. Let's love, baby.
understand each other since we got to be. Let's live our love. There's nothing wrong with me loving you, baby, no, no. And giving yourself to me can never be wrong if the love is true. Oh, baby. Don't you know how sweet and wonderful life is?
Clownfish sex right here. Well, this isn't really clownfish. I guess it is. Yeah. Sex and this is sex. It's not very intimate.
Anemone, and here's the.
If you believe in love, let's get it on.
This, and Nemo gets this part a little bit wrong, but anemone fish always start out male. So the little guys are going to land on the anemone. These live on these upside down anemone, these jellyfish-like things, and they will start off male, and the love starts out a little rough for these guys. First, the males will fight with each other, and whoever wins that fight will end up becoming female, and their gonads will change from male to female. The bigger ones, the more aggressive ones, the dominant ones become female, and they form a monogamous pair, which they can live for 30 years and reproduce and have sex like this every 2 weeks, producing thousands of eggs. Of course, chances that any one single egg will make it is truly remarkable and unusual for these animals. So that's why they got to do it all the time. So anyway, I think I'll just end with one more just little tidbit of information, since we do have other fish out here that people know about. There's a really cool thing about them out here. These are marine fish from coral reefs in the Indo-Pacific, but outside we have fish, freshwater fish from the Great Lakes of Africa. And if you look out there on your way out, you'll see on their tail, their anal fin, they have these little dots. And those little dots are basically the exact same size and coloration of the eggs that they lay. If you look at them, you'll see some of them have much brighter dots than the others. Those are the males. And these guys have an unusual mating ritual as well. They come together, and all the fish in that tank do this. They're from Lake Malawi in Africa. The female will lay the eggs, and immediately after she lays them, she'll pick them up in her mouth, okay? And she keeps the eggs in her mouth until they're fully developed. She has to figure out a way to get them fertilized, right? The egg spots, which they're called on those anal fin, trick the male, and he will shake them in front of her, and she'll try to grab those eggs and then inhaling the sperm, which will fertilize those eggs. So lots of interesting sex going on in the fish world right here in our own backyard. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Rhodes. And with that, that's the last of our presenters for this evening. Once again, this is the Siebel Center for Design in our first annual Valentine's Day event, Loveapalooza. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for the presenters for making this happen, and the exhibitors all today for being so great and providing their activities for everybody to enjoy. With that, if you need to know anything more about the center, please come talk to us. And I think, as long as the booths are able to be here, they'll probably be here until 9, so you're welcome to join and participate. They're also welcome to leave. And thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.